Welcome to the Kingsview Model Railway. Well, our first British locomotive. Now you're probably asking, why are we running a British locomotive on the main south of the New South Wales Government Railways on my Kingsview Model Railway line? Well, back in the bicentennial, Flying Scotsman made a visit to Australia, so I thought, well, it wouldn't be fitting if we didn't have a model of the Flying Scotsman. So stay tuned, we're going to review this beautiful model from Trix. I won't bore you with the basic unboxing, but the locomotive comes very well packaged in a typical clamshell, very similar to some of the Australian locos, but it is very well packaged, and it does have two side panels on each side to make it easy to access the loco. So it comes in a box. It has a sliding panel in the bottom of the box here that slides out, and that's got the two instruction books with a number of languages, with details of how it all works. We're going to review that shortly. Comes with a Trix warranty card. Out of the box, it was pretty good. It only had one piece broken off. This little piece here, which looks like a little brake stanchion or something. So we'll glue him back on. It comes with separately applied detail parts, and we'll have a go at assembling those and putting them on the loco. So what led me up to the start of this locomotive was I ordered one of these from a well-known European model shop back in February or March of this year, when it was looked like they were going to come out, and indicated price was going to be around the $1,400 mark. So I went ahead and ordered one. Obviously much more expensive than a than a Hornby model, and obviously being in HO and being the 100th anniversary, it was going to be something pretty special as a model. But as time came on, it came up towards Christmas, I finally got a call to say, hey, your locomotive's here. It's not going to be $1,400, it's going to be $1,250 or $1,260, around that sort of mark. So at that time, another retailer had been advertising them for around $1,050. So at that time, I really questioned the pricing, and I said, look, you need to be price competitive. But this particular retailer stuck his digs in and said, no, our prices are set in stone. And with that, I said, well, I'm not going to buy it. So there's no point paying too much for a locomotive. I mean, I want to support local hobby stores, but if your price isn't going to be competitive, then you're not going to get supported. So with that, I hunted around, and I wasn't able to find one locally, so I purchased this from a European store online. So I took a punt and purchased it online, and 11 days later it turned up by FedEx parcel with no GST, which was really nice, and came in at around the $840 mark. So I was mighty impressed with that. So not a lot cheaper than the local offering, but still a little bit cheaper. First impressions with it upside down in the cradle is that it's a beautifully made locomotive. The wheels are not as clean as I probably thought that they would be. They're obviously brand new and clean, but they just don't look very shiny, and it does have drive tyres on these rear drivers here, which is quite interesting that it would have that. So maybe that's designed to maintain its load pulling capability, but probably surprised that it actually has drive tyres, but I would expect that that's a point of a number of Trix European models. One of the first jobs is to get rid of this European coupler. Now, I've never really done this before, but I suspect, being one of these NEM pocket couplers, that I just have to squeeze this little these two little lugs together here at the rear, and I would suspect that this should just pull out. So we'll just do that. There we go, and wingo, out it comes. Now what I've done is I've bought KD20s here, and KD18 as well. So you can see here KD18s, KD20s, and I'm going to just work out which one I really need. I would suspect that it might only need the KD18, but I'm going to give the I'll give the KD20 a go first. So this is a KD20 with the NEM pocket, which is the little squeezies on the back here. I'm just going to insert that into the pocket here like this. Easier said than done, so we'll just put it in here. Certainly a little bit fiddly, but anyway, bingo, that's in like that. Now that's out just a little bit past the buffers. I might add too, for a locomotive of this price, I'm a bit surprised it doesn't have sprung buffer beams. I mean, this locomotive is a premium locomotive in Europe, and it's certainly at over $800 in Australia, or well closer to $1,000. Most local offerings at that sort of price would have sprung buffer beams. With this loco, there's some separately applied detail parts, and I'm glad that they've actually got them, because a lot of the European locomotives are actually devoid of what here in Australia we'd consider important detail. I know the local offerings, from local manufacturers are very highly detailed. So, these little parts make all the difference in the running of the loco. So we'll fit these up. But even the top of the range locomotives, sometimes they just don't have these fitted. And up until this locomotive came out, the only other locomotive that was a Flying Scotsman that was HO was made by Precision Scale Models in 1995. They sold for $1,800 then. They sell now second hand for well over $4,000. They're a beautiful model built by Sam Hongza. PSM did a great job making them, and they're still the standard by which the Flying Scotsman models are judged, despite the fact that there's been many manufacturers make them. This Trix one is probably going to be the closest there is to a PSM model. Well, referring to the book here, we can see that there's separately applied parts that go onto the back of the tender, and then on the front of the loco here we can see that we've got these steam pipes and some targets, etc., applied to the front of the loco. Now I've been able to fit these two pieces on the front here. Now I'm just using a little micro brush to clean off some of the oil from the bottom of the pony truck, because they've been very generous with the oil, and it doesn't really need to have that amount of oil on the pony truck. Now I'm not sure if you can see this, but this side I've actually just used my soft Dremel brush, and I've actually cleaned up this side of the wheels. I'll have to clean this a little bit more once I get power to it, but I've cleaned these wheels up. As compared to this side, they are much cleaner. I'm quite surprised at just how dirty they actually are for a brand new locomotive. Almost leads me to think that the locomotive's been used, but it doesn't look like it's been used. But on the other hand, the wheels are dirty, so they're going to get a clean. I mean, I'm only going to put a new locomotive on my track with clean wheels. Looking at the tender, it's actually got a fixed tender, which is typical of some of the UK locomotives. Now in Australia we have swinging bogies for wheels, but the UK ones are fixed like this. But these centre wheels have got a fair bit of side play in them, and this will help it get around some of the tighter curves. And on this Model 2 you can adjust the distance between the locomotive and the tender. It looks fairly close coupled, but we'll see how it goes once we run it up on the track. It is set for DCC at address number 3, so we'll put it onto the track shortly and see if we can address it up and give it its correct number, which is a 60103. So that piece that was floating around in the box was one of these brake hoses that has been refitted to the front now. So hopefully it will stay on. It was very narrow, and it was right next to the other one here, and I've put the most tiny little micro dot of super glue on the back and pushed it back into position, so hopefully it'll stay in there. Shouldn't have to do it, but I do accept on highly detailed engines, occasionally they do have a situation where some of the parts will drop off. So when they do drop off, you've got to put them back on. The final parts to put on are these very, very small brake hoses at the back. Frankly, given that this loco is going to double head most of the time, I'm just not going to bother to put them on. You're not going to really see that detail, and it's just too fiddly, particularly with a KD coupling fitted. So I've run up Decoder Pro and read the decoder, seems to read okay. Picked the Markland DCC decoder that it is, and I've numbered it 6010 so that it's got a 4-digit number in my roster. So should be able to remember that. Just look at the first 4 digits of the number. Well, the moment of truth. We're going to see how this loco runs. So we've put it on the track and programmed it in, and we'll see how it goes. Well, there it goes. Beautiful and smooth. Lovely linear throttle control. I'm sure it's going to be a great addition to the layout. Be able to run some tour trains, double-headed with 38s, other locomotives. It should be a lovely runner. Obviously this afternoon we'll give it a run in. We'll come back to you in about half an hour when it's all run in. And we'll run through the profile of all of the sounds and some of the functions. Well, the loco's run in now, and I've had some fun on JMRI trying to work out which decoder is actually fitted, because JMRI shows either a Trix decoder or a Markland decoder, and within that there's about 10 or 15 variations, so not exactly certain which decoder it is. You can't find out in the packaging or the instructions. It doesn't say exactly which model decoder is fitted, so being able to match it up in JMRI to the exact decoder is something I've still got to find. So I've been onto the Markland forums. Some of the guys there have been helpful. Some of them have come on and said, well, we don't know, whatever. And also I need to probably run the latest version of JMRI as well, which I will update as well. So that's only a minor matter. But yeah, the loco's had a good half an hour of running in now, and it certainly works well. Now, just above where I'm talking now, you'll be able to see all of the decoder options in terms of functions, and there's quite a lot. It goes right up to, well over function 30. So there's lots of functions. I won't go through every individual function, but certainly there are some very interesting ones. One of the more interesting functions is function 27. Have a listen.
Flying Scotsman is a Pacific steam locomotive designed by Sir Nigel Gresley that entered service on the London and North Eastern Railway in 1923, with the locomotive going on to set 2 landmark world records. In 1934, Flying Scotsman became the first steam locomotive to be officially recorded reaching 100 miles an hour, 160.9 kilometres an hour, and later extended the record for the longest non-stop steam locomotive journey to 425 miles or 680 kilometres in Australia in 1988. The locomotive celebrates its 100th birthday in 2023 and will tour the UK, visiting various cultural heritage sites and events.
So to sum up the decoder functions, certainly all the way from function 0 right up to function 29, there's a lot of functions, and one of the very nice functions is function 7, and we'll show that to you now. Now if you look closely, you'll be able to see the firebox flickering. That's function F7, and that's a really nice function to have on a loco like this. It'll even be better once I add a crew, so that you've actually got some more realism. There's also a cab light as well. So how do I sum up the new Trix HO Flying Scotsman? I think it is a fine model. For my rating, it gets at least 8 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10. I think it is superbly built. I think it's beautifully painted, and it's an interesting finish because it's a matte semi-gloss finish. In reality, the real locomotive, have a look above, you'll be able to see, is glossier than this. And obviously this locomotive is not finished in the livery that it was when it ran in Australia. And that's primarily why I bought it, was so that I could run a HO Flying Scotsman with some of my New South Wales rolling stock, which is what the locomotive did back in the bicentennial. But on my layout, I'm able to stretch the rules like you should on your railway. You can stretch the rules. You don't have to always be totally prototypical. But the reality is I've got a Flying Scotsman. I can run it. So in an upcoming video, you'll see a double heading with our famous 38 class locomotive in Australia, and we'll be able to reprise some of the tour runs that the famous Flying Scotsman made. But overall, Trix, well done. It's a beautiful model. It's not right up to the standard of the PSM models locomotive, the brass one from Sam Hongza made in 1995, but it's a very, very strong challenger, and it certainly has better electronics. It certainly has beautiful lighting as well, including even a cab light for the fireman to traverse through to the second coach or second tender that the loco might have as well. So a beautiful fine scale model. Trix, you've done a great job on this one, so congratulations, and hope you've enjoyed this video.